How would he choose? Everyone held their breath, waiting for the final judgment. The emperor remained silent for a long time, so long that it felt as if time itself had frozen. He glanced at the pale-faced Qin Yan and the Grand Dowager Consort Jing, then at my father and me kneeling on the ground with our backs perfectly straight. Finally, he let out a long sigh.
Absurd. This is utterly absurd. I bestowed a fine marriage upon you, yet you threw it away like trash. To commit such a scandalous act on your wedding day for a mere dancing girl. And now, you have caused such a massive uproar that the entire world is laughing at the royal family. You have completely disgraced me.
Qin Yan was scared out of his wits and kowtowed repeatedly.
Father, please appease your anger. Father, please appease your anger. I have realized my mistake.
The emperor let out a cold laugh.
Realized your mistake? To realize it only now. It is too late. Lady Yun, you have done well.
He spoke those words with ambiguous meaning.
Beloved Minister Yun.
He then looked toward my father.
In this matter, the royal family has wronged you. Qin Yan, Prince Jing, lacks moral character and has behaved without propriety. He is to be confined to his estate for 3 months, fined 1 year's salary, and reflect on his actions behind closed doors. As for Lady Liu Ruyan, she seduced a prince and offended her superiors. She is sentenced to death by 3 feet of white silk, to be executed immediately.
The moment those words were spoken, Liu Ruyan collapsed instantly, fainting dead away on the spot. Qin Yan snapped his head up, his eyes filled with utter disbelief.
Father. No.
The emperor ignored him completely and continued to speak.
As for Lady Yun, regarding her marriage to Prince Jing, the rites were not completed, the banquet was not held, and the vows to heaven and earth were not made. Therefore, this marriage agreement is hereby nullified. All dowry items shall be returned entirely to the Yun family. Additionally, we bestow upon Lady Yun 1,000 taels of gold, 100 bolts of brocade, and a ruyi scepter. As a gesture of consolation, the marriage agreement is dissolved.
These 6 words were far harsher than divorce, and far more absolute. It directly denied that this marriage had ever existed. I, Yun Shuyue, am not a discarded wife. I simply never married Prince Jing, Qin Yan. As for Qin Yan, he became the prince who was publicly rejected by both the Yun family and the emperor. His reputation and his dignity were completely torn to shreds at this very moment. I bowed my head deeply. This subject's daughter-in-law, thanks your majesty for your immense grace. This battle, I won. I won decisively and cleanly, thoroughly and satisfyingly. Once the imperial decree was issued, it was set in stone. There was no longer any possibility of change. Liu Ruyan shrieked and completely fainted away. Immediately, expressionless palace matrons stepped forward and dragged her out like a dead dog.
Ruyan, father, you cannot kill her. You cannot.
Qin Yan's eyes looked ready to burst, and he tried to rush forward like a madman. He was held down firmly by 2 imperial guards, unable to budge. He could only watch helplessly as his beloved woman disappeared outside the palace doors. His agonizing shrieks echoed through the magnificent hall, sounding so powerless and utterly ridiculous.
Drag him down.
The emperor waved his hand wearily.
Yes.
The guards took their orders and dragged away Qin Yan, who was still struggling frantically. Not a single trace of color remained on the face of the Grand Dowager Consort Jing. She watched her son being dragged away like a lump of mud and looked at my father and me, who were still kneeling there with straight backs. The resentment in her eyes was almost tangible. She knew they had lost, utterly and completely. The Empress Dowager let out a heavy sigh.
Let us all disperse.
The festive air on her face had completely vanished. She stood up and left first, supported by her female officials. The Empress followed closely behind. She paused slightly as she passed by me. I could feel a meaningful gaze falling upon the top of my head, and then she left without saying a word. The emperor also departed. A grand birthday banquet thus ended hastily in what was practically a farce. The guests stood up one after another and left silently at the fastest possible speed. No one dared to say a single word at this juncture. The way they looked at me had changed from watching a good show to deep wariness and even fear. This daughter of the Prime Minister's estate was simply too ruthless. She didn't strike often, but when she did, she directly overturned the entire Prince Jing's manor. My father and brother helped me up from the ground.
Shuyue, let's go home.
There was an imperceptible heartache in father's voice. I nodded and walked slowly out of the hall. Stepping out of Zekin Hall, the cold night wind brushed against my face, bringing a touch of chilliness. I took a deep breath of this air, which was filled with the scent of freedom, and my entire being felt much lighter. The shackles of my past life were completely severed by my own hands at this moment. In the distance, the guard of honor of Crown Prince Qin Yan was slowly approaching. He brushed past us, without a word. Only at the moment we crossed paths, he cast a glance at me. I nodded slightly in response. Our alliance was quietly sealed in this silent exchange of looks. Back inside the carriage of the Prime Minister's estate, the interior was completely silent. Mother had long been waiting anxiously at the gates of the estate. Seeing us return, her suspended heart finally settled.
My child, you have suffered.
I shook my head and held her hand in return. Mother, your daughter did not suffer. From now on, no one will ever be able to make me suffer again. Returning to my own courtyard, I dismissed everyone, including Qin Yan, and sat alone by the window. Outside the window was a bright, clear moon. The moonlight spilled over me like water, yet it could not dispel the coldness in my eyes. Did I win? Yes, I won. I successfully rid myself of Qin Yan, preserved the dignity of the Yun family, and even made my opponents pay a heavy price. But is this enough? No. Far from enough. Qin Yan is merely confined to his manor, and the Grand Dowager Consort of Jing merely lost face. Their foundations remain unshaken. They will remember today's humiliation 1,000 times over, and once they find an opportunity, they will surely make a comeback, unleashing the most frenzied vengeance upon me and the entire Yun family. I, Yun Shuyue, never do things by halves. What I want is to eradicate them completely, ensuring they can never rise again. I gazed at the cold moon outside the window, and slowly clenched my fists. Qin Yan, our war has only just begun. In this lifetime, not only will I strip you of the throne, but I will also make you lose everything you hold dear, forcing you to taste the same agonizing despair I suffered in my past life. Early the next morning, everything that had transpired at the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet became the hottest topic of discussion in every tea house and tavern. The storyteller struck his gavel with a loud crack.
If you wish to know of last night's grand affairs, then listen closely as I explain it all. They say His Highness Prince Jing was deeply infatuated with a beautiful woman, while the Prime Minister's daughter, possessing a fiery spirit, demanded a divorce right there in the Golden Palace.
The crowd below burst into cheers. I, Yun Shuyue, had completely become a legendary figure in the capital. Some said I was ruthless and merciless, daring to trample even upon imperial dignity. Others said I was unyielding and resolute, unafraid of powerful authorities. But regardless of the narrative, all spoke of me with awe and dread. No one dared to view me as a laughingstock anymore. Meanwhile, Prince Jing, Qin Yan, had thoroughly become the laughingstock of the entire realm. Infatuation, forcing his primary consort to write a divorce letter for the sake of a dancing girl, only to be publicly reprimanded by the emperor and have his betrothal annulled. This was not infatuation. This was sheer stupidity. I heard that when the white silk was delivered to the Prince Jing manor, Qin Yan went mad, slashing and injuring 2 decree-bearing eunuchs in an attempt to stop it. In the end, imperial experts sent from the palace broke his leg and pinned him down by force, forcing him to watch helplessly as Liu Ruyan's life withered away before his eyes. Afterward, he was completely locked inside his manor, like a trapped beast with its fangs pulled out, doing nothing but drinking and cursing my name every day. The Prince Jing manor became desolate, shrouded in gloom and misery. In stark contrast to their state was our Prime Minister's manor. My father's position in the imperial court grew increasingly secure. The emperor, seemingly out of guilt, or perhaps to appease him, held my father in exceptionally high regard, entrusting many critical state affairs to him. The Yun family's power and influence, far from declining, actually rose. Those who had been on good terms with us came one after another to offer congratulations, while those who had previously wavered quickly sent grand gifts to show their goodwill. Even our former political rivals temporarily drew in their claws, not daring to court misfortune. As for me, I began to live a quiet life of seclusion, spending my days either reading in my courtyard or keeping my mother company in her room to chat. All the storms of the outside world seemed to have nothing to do with me. Yet, everyone knew that the ones who truly held sway in the Yun family now, aside from Prime Minister Yun Chenzhou, included me, Yun Shuyue. On this day, my father summoned me to his study alone. He dismissed the attendants and personally poured a cup of tea for me.
Shuyue, you have suffered these past days.
Father, you speak too gravely. Your daughter is doing very well at home.
The one in the palace is paying close attention to you.
I knew father was referring to the emperor.
He has asked me about your recent situation several times. He even said that a woman of your courage and insight should not be buried away in the inner chambers.
What is he trying to do? Is he painting a pretty picture to fool me? What does His Majesty mean by that?
Although you won this time, you have also completely caught His Majesty's eye. He admires your methods, but he also fears your temperament. A woman who can shake up the imperial court single-handedly is, in his eyes, both a sharp weapon and a hidden danger. He will not let you stay so peacefully in the Prime Minister's manor.
I see. His Majesty is afraid that this sharp weapon of mine cannot be used by him. He is even afraid that I might become someone else's weapon. For example, Crown Prince Qin Yan. So, what does he want to do?
He wants to arrange another marriage for you.
Father's voice sounded somewhat heavy. My hand holding the teacup paused for a moment. Again? What does this emperor take me for? Goods that can be bought and sold at will? I suppressed the anger in my heart and asked coldly, who is it? Father spoke a name.
The Lin family of the Marquis of Zhenbei.
Marquis of Zhenbei, Lin Wei. He holds 300,000 troops of the Great Zhou, guarding the northern border. He is the god of war of the Great Zhou, but he is advanced in years and has only one only son, Lin Shu. This young master of the Lin family is barely 20 years old, a young hero with illustrious military achievements. He is the dream husband of countless young ladies in the capital. But the most crucial point is, the Lin family holds military power, but has always remained neutral. They do not participate in any factional struggles. They are the force that His Majesty trusts and wants to win over the most. His Majesty wants me to marry Lin Shu. Firstly, to appease our Yun family, and secondly, to win over and control the Lin family through our Yun family. What a brilliant move to kill two birds with one stone. He really has calculated this well. I will not marry him. Your daughter will not marry. I refused without the slightest hesitation. Father looked at me, his eyes full of heartache and pity.
I know you are unwilling in your heart, but this is an imperial decree. If it is truly issued, it will not be easy for us to defy it.
Father. I stood up and walked over to him. Have you forgotten what kind of reputation your daughter has now? Father was taken aback. I smiled slightly, but that smile carried a cold, sharp edge. A woman who publicly called off her marriage to a prince, unyielding in character, jealous, and untamable. Do you think that young Master Lin, with his illustrious military achievements, would be willing to marry such a fierce woman? Even if he is willing, would the Marquis of Zhenbei's manor be willing to let a troublemaker who can stir up the court cross their threshold? His Majesty wants to bestow a marriage, but it also depends on whether they dare to accept this decree. Father looked at me for a long time without speaking. In the end, a bitter, relieved smile appeared on his face.
I was muddled. You, my girl, already have your own calculations in your heart.
I sat down again and poured more tea for father. Father, your daughter will never be at the mercy of others again. My marriage, and my future, must be decided by myself. No one should ever think of using me as a chess piece again. I looked at the tea leaves floating and sinking in the cup, my gaze firm. From now on, I, Shuyue, will be the one playing the chess game. My words were not mere bravado. The news that His Majesty wanted to marry me into the Marquis of Zhenbei's manor soon spread, whether father did it intentionally or whether the one in the palace leaked the news himself. In short, the entire capital came to know about it. Immediately, all sorts of rumors and gossip started spreading again. Everyone felt that I, Shuyue, had truly struck immense good fortune. Although I did not become the Princess of Jing, I could marry the young hero, Master Lin, and become the future mistress of the Marquis of Zhenbei's manor. This was simply a blessing in disguise. Some even sneered and said I must have used some seductive wiles to entice the emperor into treating me so generously. I merely laughed it off. They did not understand. This was never a blessing, but a transaction, a more magnificent cage. I quietly stayed in the manor, waiting for the Marquis of Zhenbei's response. Sure enough, within 3 days, the old madam of the Marquis of Zhenbei's manor personally sent an invitation to visit the Prime Minister's manor. She did not see me, but met directly with my mother instead. The two of them talked in the warm pavilion for less than half an hour, before the old madam took her leave with a displeased look on her face. That very afternoon, Lin Wei, the Marquis of Zhenbei, submitted a memorial to the emperor. The wording of the memorial was earnest and sincere. My humble son Lin Shu has been raised in the military since childhood and is crude and unrefined. He is a martial artist who only knows how to brandish swords and spears, and does not understand how to cherish a delicate woman. Meanwhile, Shuyue is the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister. If she is wedded to my humble son, my Lin family would be marrying far above our station, and it would be an immense grievance to the young mistress of the Yun family. I beg your majesty to rescind the imperial decree, so as not to ruin Miss Yun's lifelong happiness. Reading through it, every single word seemed self-deprecating and considerate of me, but everyone could see the underlying meaning clearly. Our Marquis of Genbei's Manor dares not accept such a formidable figure as you. The day after the memorial was submitted, the emperor summoned my father. The two of them talked in the imperial study for an hour. No one knew what they discussed. Only that father's expression was very calm when he left the palace, and the imperial decree betrothing me was ultimately never issued. The matter was simply left at that. The capital was set ablaze with gossip once again.
This eldest young mistress of the Yun family. Not only did her fierce temperament slap the royal family in the face, but now she has also been tactfully rejected by the Marquis of Genbei's Manor. She has truly become a legendary figure with a touch of ill omen.
Have you heard? Even the Marquis of Genbei's Manor didn't dare to take that Miss Yun.
Heavens, even a heroic figure like the young Marquis Lin couldn't rein her in. It seems this Miss Yun is destined to bring misfortune. Whichever family marries her will suffer bad luck.
All kinds of rumors ran rampant. I went from being a fierce woman to a bringer of misfortune, as if marrying me would lead to absolute ruin. I merely smiled at this. This was fine too. At least no more blind fools will try to plot against me. I could finally enjoy a few days of peace and quiet. However, the tree desires stillness, but the wind will not subside. I didn't go looking for trouble, yet trouble came looking for me. On this day, as I was admiring the flowers in the garden, the housekeeper came rushing in to report.
My lady, someone from the palace has arrived.
Who sent them?
They were sent by Princess Qin Lingyue.
Qin Lingyue, the emperor's most beloved young daughter, born of the same mother as Prince Jing, Qin Yan, pampered and precious since childhood, accustomed to having her way. Her arrogant and domineering nature was extreme. She had tripped me up plenty of times in my past life, making her one of my most troublesome adversaries in the imperial harem. What did she send someone for?
Her Highness the Princess is hosting a flower viewing banquet in her manor and has specially sent an invitation to you.
The housekeeper presented a gold-flecked invitation. I opened it to take a look. Upon it, my name was written in a delicate, elegant script. This was clearly a declaration of war, a trap of a banquet.
Miss, you cannot go. That Princess Qin Lingyue is Prince Jing's biological sister. She definitely up to no good.
My elder brother Yun Qi rushed over upon hearing the news, his face also filled with anger.
This Qin Lingyue wants to throw her weight around. I will decline her on your behalf. We will just say you are ill and cannot go.
I stopped him. Brother, one can hide for a moment, but not forever. Since she has issued this challenge, if I don't accept, would it not make people laugh and think that I, Yun Shuyue, am afraid of her? But do not worry. I would like to see what kind of tricks this imperial princess can possibly play. Soldiers will be blocked by generals. Water will be covered by earth. I, Yun Shuyue, have never feared anyone. 3 days later, the princess's manor. I arrived as scheduled in the carriage from the Prime Minister's manor. I was not dressed in grand attire today. I wore only an elegant, simple lake blue gown with light makeup. Amidst this garden full of vibrant colors and glittering jewels, it instead made me look exceptionally outstanding. Qin Lingyue was surrounded by a crowd of noble ladies like stars around the moon. When she saw me, undisguised hatred and disgust immediately welled up in her eyes. Yet, a sickeningly sweet smile spread across her face.
Oh my! Miss Yun is here.
She lifted her skirt and walked toward me with a graceful, swaying gait.
This princess thought you wouldn't dare to come.
The surrounding noble ladies all looked at me with expressions of anticipation, as if waiting for a show. I smiled slightly and curtsied. Since Her Highness invited me, how could Shuyue dare not to come? My attitude was neither servile nor overbearing, and my etiquette was flawless, leaving her unable to find the slightest fault. Qin Lingyue's smile stiffened, but then it brightened by a few degrees.
Please rise quickly.
She warmly took my hand, as if we were close sisters of many years.
Miss Yun is indeed an extraordinary woman of the great Zhou dynasty. Even my royal brother suffered a setback at your hands. This princess has admired you for a long time.
Her words seemed like praise, but in reality, they were meant to remind everyone that I was a fierce woman who dared to call off a marriage with a prince, effectively drawing hostility toward me. Her Highness flatters me. Shuyue merely followed her heart and did what ought to be done. On the other hand, Prince Jing's deep devotion was truly moving. It is just a pity that the beautiful lady met an untimely end and has passed away. Surely Her Highness must have been grieved by this for a long time as well. I effortlessly steered the topic toward the deceased Liu Ruoyan. As expected, Qin Lingyue's expression changed instantly. Mentioning Liu Ruoyan was like stepping on her sore spot. Her face turned pale and flushed by turns, looking incredibly unsightly. Liu Ruoyan was handpicked by her and sent to Qin Yan's side. She was a pawn used to drive a wedge between me and Qin Yan, and to control him. Now that the pawn was dead, and the plan had completely fallen through, how could she not hate me?
You.
She pointed at me, speechless. The surrounding noble ladies looked at each other in silence, not daring to make a sound. No one expected that I would dare to expose Qin Lingyue's sore spot to her face. What is it? I looked at her with feigned surprise. Could it be that Her Highness does not grieve for Miss Liu's death? That is truly surprising. After all, I heard that Miss Liu was able to meet Prince Jing, largely thanks to Your Highness acting as the matchmaker. My words were like a knife, plunging fiercely into her heart. The fact that Qin Lingyue was very close to Liu Ruoyan and had even introduced her to Prince Jing was no secret among the noble ladies of the capital. It was just that no one dared to point it out to her face. Now that I had exposed it in public, Qin Lingyue could no longer maintain her composure.
Yun Shuyue.
Do not speak nonsense here. This princess only took care of that woman because I found her pitiful. Who knew she would turn out to be a shameless troublemaker? She immediately distanced herself completely and even turned around to trample on Liu Ruoyan. What a hypocritical white lotus flower she was. So that is how it is. I nodded, as if suddenly realizing the truth. It seems Shuyue has misunderstood. Her Highness is of noble birth and kind-hearted. Naturally, you would look down on a low-class dancer who cannot be presented in polite society. I went along with her words, which only made her feel more stifled. She wanted to humiliate me, but was checkmated by me instead. It felt like punching cotton. All that force with nowhere to land. Qin Lingyue let out a cold snort and swept away with a flick of her sleeve.
The flower viewing banquet has begun. Everyone, please take your seats.
It was not wise for her to bicker with me further, so she could only force herself to turn the page. Everyone took their seats one after another. My seat was arranged in the most remote corner. Those sharing my table were also concubines' daughters who held no influence. The looks they cast at me were filled with fear and estrangement. Throughout the entire banquet, no one spoke a word to me. I was completely isolated. This was Qin Lingyue's tactic. Childish, yet effective. She wanted everyone to see how misfit I, Yun Shuyue, was, and how I was rejected by the entire circle of noble ladies. I didn't care at all. I poured myself a cup of fruit wine and sipped it quietly, looking at those hypocritical, smiling noble ladies. I only found it incredibly ironic.
Drinking alone is boring. Why don't we play a drinking game? How about composing poetry? Great idea.
This was the most common entertainment at banquets for noble ladies, and also the easiest way to make someone look foolish. As expected, when the game reached me, the topic Qin Lingyue set was to write a 7-character poem about resentment. Using the word resentment was truly malicious. Everyone's eyes turned toward me at once, all waiting to see me make a fool of myself, waiting to see how an abandoned wife like me would depict her own resentment. If I wrote it well, it would prove that I harbored resentment and was dissatisfied with the royal family. If I wrote it poorly, it would show I lacked talent, humiliating the prime minister's estate. What a difficult dilemma indeed.
What is it? Is Miss Yun unable to compose one? If you can't, you'll have to drink 3 penalty cups.
Indeed, Miss Yun is the most talented lady in the capital. How could she not compose one? Please let us broaden our horizons.
I set down my wine cup and slowly stood up. My gaze swept across the room, finally landing on Qin Lingyue's smug face. I smiled slightly. Yesterday, the bridal candles burned red before the hall. My beloved held a sword to question my heart. As the first line was spoken, the entire venue fell silent. Everyone understood. I was writing about the scene on my wedding day. A flash of smug satisfaction appeared in Qin Lingyue's eyes. It was just as she expected. It is not that my heart is cold as iron, but that the pure and the turbid cannot coexist. How can a phoenix dance with common sparrows? How can a proud soul serve a mediocre fool? Today, I brush my sleeves to sever the earthly ties, leaving the vast world for me to roam free. Each line of the poem was more shocking than the last. There was not a single mention of resentment, yet it was filled with soaring pride and disdain. A phoenix does not associate with common sparrows. How could my noble pride serve a mediocre fool like you? Rather than struggling in the mud, it is better to sever the ties of affection with a sword. From now on, the sea is wide enough for the fish to leap, and the sky is high enough for the birds to fly. This was no poem of resentment. It was clearly a decisive battle song declaring freedom. The entire flower garden was dead silent. Everyone was struck speechless by the sheer force of my poem. My poem not only lacked any trace of resentment, but it also dragged her proud royal brother down into the dirt. Calling him a common sparrow, calling him a mediocre fool. This was 1,000 times more painful than insulting him directly. Qin Lingyue slammed her hand on the table and stood up.
Yun Shuyue, how dare you? You actually dare to publicly insult my royal brother here. Guards, seize this rebellious woman.
What is Princess doing? Do you think my poem is not good enough? Or is it that Your Highness feels what I said in the poem is not the truth?
You still dare to make excuses.
I am not making excuses. I am merely stating a fact that the whole world knows. Prince Jing disregarded the nation's dignity for a dancer and ignored the marriage bestowed by the emperor. If such behavior is not mediocre, then what is it? I, Yun Shuyue, disdained to associate with him. Could I be wrong? My words were resounding and powerful. Qin Lingyue trembled with anger. She had never endured such defiance and humiliation.
Rebellion. This is outright rebellion. Slap her mouth. Give her a good hard beating. Give her a severe beating.
A clear, resonant voice echoed from the entrance of the garden.
My royal sister certainly puts on a grand show of authority.
The voice sounded like music to my ears, instantly diffusing the tense, explosive atmosphere. It was the current crown prince, Qin Yan. Behind him followed Wang Degi, the chief steward of the Eastern Palace, along with a squad of the crown prince's guards.
Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince.
Qin Lingyue's face instantly turned incredibly grim.
Why has royal brother come here?
Qin Chen ignored her. His gaze lingered on me for a brief moment before he finally turned to Qin Lingyue.
If I had not come, I would not have known that my royal sister had actually learned to use unlawful physical punishment in her own manner against the family of a court official.
She hurriedly defended herself.
Royal brother, I did not do that. It was this Yun Shuyue. She wrote a poem to insult Prince Jing.
Oh. What kind of poem did Lady Yun compose? Why not recite it so that I may hear it as well?
Yesterday before the hall, the wedding candles glowed red. My beloved held a sword, questioning where my heart led. It is not that I am cold, or that my heart is made of stone, but the pure and the muddy can never share a throne. How can a phoenix dance with common sparrows in the sky? How can a proud soul serve a mediocre guy? Today I wave my sleeve to sever this earthly bond, to roam the vast heaven and earth, of which I am fond.
Excellent poem. How can a phoenix dance with common sparrows in the sky? How can a proud soul serve a mediocre guy? Well said. Lady Yun possesses great vision and noble aspirations. She is truly a hero among women and worthy of great admiration.
No one expected the crown prince to openly take my side and even offer such high praise. Qin Lingyue's expression could no longer be described merely as ugly. She cried out in indignation.
Royal brother, she is calling Prince Jing a mediocre servant.
Qin Chen asked back indifferently.
Is that so? To my ears, it sounds as though Lady Yun is comparing herself to a phoenix, expressing her desire to avoid drifting along with vulgar worldly trends. Did my royal sister mishear it? Poetry is the expression of one's mind. What is in one's heart is what one hears. As the saying goes, if there is a Buddha in your heart, you see Buddha everywhere. If there is dung in your heart, you see dung everywhere. Royal sister, your heart is in turmoil.
Qin Chen's words were spoken casually, yet every single word cut deep. Not only did he resolve the crisis for me, but he also turned things around to thoroughly humiliate Qin Lingyue, implying that her own mind was filthy, which was why everything she heard sounded filthy to her. Qin Lingyue was left completely speechless, her pretty face flushing bright red, and tears welling up in her eyes. She looked around at the other noble ladies as if pleading for help, but those ladies had already lowered their heads in fear, silent as cicadas in winter. Who would dare to cross the crown prince at a time like this?
Enough. Let today's matter end here. Lady Yun is my guest. I wish to invite her to the front hall for a cup of tea. All of you may disperse.
This statement was equivalent to openly declaring that I, Shuyue, was under the crown prince's protection. Anyone who wished to move against me would first have to consider whether they had the weight to do so. No matter how resentful Qin Yue felt, she could only grit her teeth and comply. A carefully planned trap of a banquet thus concluded in such a dramatic fashion. I followed Qin Chen out of that suffocating garden, with Qin Yue's venomous gaze staring at my back, almost piercing through me. I knew that the grudge between her and me was now completely set in stone, but I did not care. Inside the private room of the front hall, Qin Chen dismissed the attendants and personally poured a cup of tea for me. Thank you for resolving the situation today, Your Highness.
Sit. It was merely a small matter. You are even more outstanding than I imagined, and far more patient.
I knew he was referring to the fact that I had not taken the initiative to contact him or seek his help.
My imperial sister has always been arrogant and willful. She will certainly not let today's great humiliation go easily. Furthermore, the attention that person in the palace has on you
has never diminished. I know. Thank you for the warning, Your Highness.
You don't seem worried at all.
I set down my teacup. I met his gaze and smiled slightly. He looked at me with some curiosity, because I know I am not fighting alone. Your Highness will help me, won't you? My directness caught Qin Chen off guard for a moment.
Interesting. You truly are an interesting woman. Very well. I will help you. But I also hope you can become my sharpest blade.
I stood up and walked to his side. I looked out the window at the drifting clouds. Rest assured, Your Highness, this blade is not only sharp, but will also never harm its master. Our eyes met in the air. A true alliance of shared minds was officially forged at this moment. After leaving the princess's manor and stepping into the carriage heading home, my heart was not as light as I had imagined. The crown prince is a double-edged sword. Used well, he can help me rise rapidly and exact my revenge. Used poorly, he will bring ruin upon me. Every step hereafter must be taken with far greater caution than before. Upon returning to the manor, my elder brother immediately came forward to meet me. Shuyue, are you all right? Did Qin Yue make things difficult for you? I briefly recounted today's events. When he heard that the crown prince had stepped in to resolve the situation, my brother's brow furrowed even deeper. Shuyue, you are getting too close to the crown prince. An arrow once shot cannot be recalled. From the moment we fell out with the Prince Jing's manor, we had no other choice. We either stand in the crown prince's camp, or wait to be purged. Our Yun family must never become the next sacrificial victim. My brother fell silent. He knew I was right. In this storm of succession, no one can remain neutral. Not choosing is the greatest mistake of all. Since returning from the princess's manor, the winds in the capital have shifted once again. The news that Crown Prince Qin Chen had openly protected Shuyue at Qin Yue's flower viewing banquet spread like wildfire. This was no longer a hint, but a clear declaration. The establishment of this relationship gave countless wavering factions something new to weigh in their minds. Some began to secretly show favor to the Eastern Palace, while others felt an unprecedented sense of crisis. The Imperial Palace, the Imperial Study, the atmosphere was suffocatingly tense. The Emperor sat upon the dragon throne, his face as dark as still water, toyed with a translucent green jade pendant in his hand. Standing before him was my father, Yun Chenzhou. Beloved Minister Yun, the Emperor finally spoke. The capital has been quite lively lately. His voice betrayed neither anger nor pleasure. Replying to Your Majesty, the capital has always been peaceful and prosperous, all thanks to Your Majesty's wise rule. Is that so? How is it that we heard the Crown Prince and your beloved daughter have been very close? These words were like a boulder cast into a calm lake. My father's heart sank instantly. He knew the Emperor was warning him, warning the Yun family not to choose a side too early or too openly. Your Majesty is wise. My daughter was recently invited to a banquet by Princess Qin Yue. She suffered some grievances during the gathering, but fortunately, the Crown Prince happened to pass by and resolve the matter, saving her from humiliation. By all reason and sentiment, our Yun family must be grateful for the Crown Prince's kindness. Grateful? The Emperor's eyes narrowed slightly. Beloved Minister Yun, you are a clever man. You ought to know that what we dislike most is the forming of factions among ministers, especially when it involves the princes. The heavy pressure bore down on my father like a mountain. Yet, my father's back remained perfectly straight. This subject would not dare to form factions. This subject is merely seeking a way to survive for the Yun family. The intentions of Prince Jing are known to everyone. He views our Yun family as a thorn in his side. If not for the protection of His Highness the Crown Prince, our entire Yun family would likely have already become soul slain by Prince Jing's sword just to vent his anger. Your Majesty, it was Prince Jing who pushed our Yun family out first. We had no other choice. These words were rebellious, yet they were also the bloody truth. The imperial study fell into a long, dead silence. After a long time, the emperor finally let out a long sigh. Forget it. You may leave. Yes, he seemed to tacitly accept father's explanation, and also tacitly approved of the alliance between the Yun family and the Eastern Palace. By the time father walked out of the imperial study, his back was soaked with cold sweat. Accompanying a ruler is like accompanying a tiger. The ancients truly did not deceive me. At the same time, inside the manor of the grounded Prince Jing, a precious blue and white porcelain vase was violently smashed to pieces on the ground. Qin Yan's face was filled with ferocious rage. One of his legs was still in a splint, making it difficult to move. But this did not affect his venting of violence in the slightest. Qin Chen. Yun Shuyue. He gritted his teeth as he muttered these two names. Good. Very good. How dare you join forces so blatantly to deal with this prince? Qin Lingyue sat to one side, her face also icy cold. Imperial brother. We can no longer sit and wait for death like this. She now has the crown prince backing her up. It will be even harder for us to make a move on her. A ruthless look flashed in Qin Yan's eyes. Then we target her father. Qin Lingyue frowned. Yun Chenzhou is the head of the civil officials, and his disciples are all over the empire. How could it be easy to find dirt on him? If we can't do it openly, we do it in the dark. This prince does not believe that Yun Chenzhou, after a lifetime in office, is a saint with completely clean hands. As long as he is human, he must have a weakness. Send word to our people in Jiangnan. Have them investigate thoroughly for this prince. Turn Yun Chenzhou's background completely upside down. And as for those businesses of the Yun family, don't let them have too peaceful of a time either. A conspiracy targeting my Yun family was quietly unfolding in the dark, but I had already anticipated this. At dusk, Qingqin quietly handed me a slip of paper. It was sent by someone from the crown prince. It had only one sentence on it. The Jiangnan salt trade is of utmost importance. I hope for your assistance. I burned the slip of paper to ashes over the candle flame. The Jiangnan salt trade. It is finally here. In my past life, the reason Qin Yan had such immense financial resources to raise a private army and rival the crown prince was entirely due to the smuggled salt trade in Jiangnan. That was a golden line drenched in blood and sin. And it was also his most fatal weakness. Qin Chen wanted to investigate it, but could never find a breakthrough because he did not know the key figures involved. But I knew. Not only did I know, I also knew where their account books were hidden. Qin Yan. You want to investigate my father? Then I will let you taste the feeling of having the rug pulled out from under you first. The night grew deeper. I shut myself in the study alone, unrolling a map of Jiangnan to examine it carefully by the candlelight. I spread out a map of Jiangnan and examined it carefully by the candlelight. Qingtian guarded outside the door to ensure no one would disturb me. Memories of my past life flooded back like a tide. Those crimes of Qin Yan that I had deliberately forgotten gradually became clear. After ascending the throne, in order to eradicate dissidents, he had ruthlessly murdered me, his first wife, who knew too much. He thought that once I was dead, he could sleep without worry, not knowing that many of the private words he spoke to Liu Ruoyan while drunk had been overheard by me, who was neglected at the time. For instance, many details of the Jiangnan smuggled salt case. His largest salt smuggling transit point was located at an extremely hidden canal dock outside Yangzhou City. The person in charge was a wealthy merchant named Zhang Wanjin, who outwardly ran a legitimate business, and the key figure who pulled strings for him and colluded with the local government was Manan, the salt commissioner of Liangwai. These two individuals were Qin Yan's left and right hands in Jiangnan, and they were his money bags. I took up my brush and wrote down these two names on the Xuan paper, as well as several key dates and locations associated with them. After completing all this, I blew on the paper to dry the ink, folded it, and placed it inside an envelope. Early the next morning, I handed the letter to my elder brother, Yun Qi. Please make sure to deliver this letter to father personally. Remember, no third party must know about this. He did not ask any questions, only nodding solemnly. Do not worry. I did not know what expression father had when he read the letter. I only knew that from that day on, the lights in his study began to burn all through the night. The Prime Minister's intelligence network was like an invisible web, rapidly spreading from the capital toward Jiangnan. A war without gunsmoke had already begun. Eldest Miss, The silk shop in the west of the city has caught fire. Just as we were secretly investigating the smuggling case, Qin Yan's retaliation arrived. First, a silk shop owned by the Yun family in the west of the city mysteriously caught fire. Although it was extinguished in time, the losses were heavy. Immediately following that, several officials close to our Yun family were impeached one after another by the imperial censors. The contents of the impeachments were all trivial, petty matters. They posed no real threat, but they were annoying enough. For a time, undercurrents surged within the imperial court. Everyone knew that this was Prince Jing's faction declaring war on the Prime Minister's estate. I will take men to Prince Jing's estate right now. Brother, please do not act rashly. My brother Yun Qi was furious. These are nothing more than distractions meant to disrupt our focus. We have only one objective. I pointed to the location of Yangzhou on the map, my gaze cold. To kill a snake, you must strike its vital spot. As long as we completely choke off this place, all their posturing and claw-bearing will turn into a joke. Shuyue, you are truly different from how you used to be. I smiled slightly and did not reply. People must grow up eventually, especially after dying once. Half a month later, the first batch of news arrived from Qin Yan. All the names and locations you provided match perfectly. On the surface, the rice merchant Zhang Wanjin is extremely wealthy and highly charitable, but in secret he keeps a large band of desperate outlaws and controls all the smuggled salt trade around Yangzhou. As expected, and the Salt Transport Commissioner, Manan, is an insatiably corrupt official. For all the official salt transported to the capital, he skims off a massive share. The smuggling network they have built is tight and ruthless. Anyon, who tries to intrude or investigate, ultimately ends up as a floating corpse in the canal. Even more shocking, the secret agents also uncovered a deeper secret. The massive profits they made from smuggling salt did not all flow back to the capital. Instead, a large portion of it was kept locally in Jiangnan and used to purchase weapons and recruit bandits. They were secretly funding a private army. This discovery shook father deeply. The severity of the matter had far exceeded his expectations. This was no longer simple corruption and smuggling. This was treason. Once proven, the entire Prince Jing's estate would be seized and his clan executed. But evidence. We still lacked the most critical evidence. An account book that could connect all the clues together. Or a witness willing to step forward and testify. The atmosphere in the study was tense to the extreme. Father, my brother and I stayed up all night over a pile of secret reports sent back from Jiangnan. The clues all point to Zhang Wanjin and Manan, my brother Yun Qi said, pointing at the secret reports with a tight frown. But both of them are old foxes, who act with extreme caution. Our people cannot get close to their inner circle at all. Father rubbed his temples, his face full of exhaustion. Backed by Prince Jing, they have operated in Jiangnan for many years. Their defenses are completely impenetrable. Trying to get direct evidence of their collusion with Prince Jing is harder than climbing to heaven. He looked at me. Unless we can find their account books. The account books definitely exist, and there is more than one set. People like them, to protect themselves and keep each other in check, will certainly leave more than one insurance policy. The question is, where would the account books be hidden? My brother asked. We cannot afford to wait any longer. I looked at my father and brother, my gaze resolute. Qin Yan's people are also investigating us. The longer we drag this out, the more variables will arise. We must take the initiative and strike. How do we take the initiative? We throw a stone to muddy the waters, forcing the snake in the water to show its head. My plan is very simple, but also very risky. I need the Crown Prince's cooperation. That night, I wrote down the plan in a secret letter and sent it to the Eastern Palace. Crown Prince Qin Chen's reply came quickly. It contained only 4 words. Test the waters. A grand show was about to begin. 3 days later, at the morning court session, the atmosphere in the Grand Hall was as usual, just as everyone thought today would be another uneventful day. An imperial censor, belonging to the Eastern Palace faction, suddenly stepped forward to present a memorial. Your Majesty, this subject has a memorial to present. Granted. This subject recently audited the treasury accounts and discovered that the salt tax from the Liangwai region has, for 3 consecutive years, shown a steady decline. The tax silver for this spring is nearly 30% less than the same period in previous years. Salt is the lifeblood of the nation, and tax revenue is the cornerstone of the treasury. A sharp reduction in the Liangwai salt tax is a matter of grave concern. This subject implores Your Majesty to immediately dispatch an imperial commissioner to Yangzhou. to thoroughly investigate this matter. The moment these words were spoken, everyone's eyes invariably darted towards several officials who were closely associated with Prince Jing. Those officials closely associated with Prince Jing, their expressions instantly changed. They had not expected the Crown Prince's faction to suddenly launch an attack regarding the salt tax. This stone was thrown both accurately and fiercely, striking them directly where it hurt most, upon the dragon throne. His Majesty's face also darkened. An empty treasury had always been his biggest headache. Now, for someone to dare tamper with the salt tax was undoubtedly touching his imperial wrath. Request granted. Order the Vice Minister of Revenue and the Minister of the Court of State Ceremonies to immediately form an inspection team to set out for Yangzhou in 3 days. They must investigate this matter thoroughly. If there are those who have embezzled or broken the law, regardless of how high their official rank, they shall be punished severely without leniency by Your Majesty's decree. Once the imperial decree was issued, it was like a death warrant, plunging the entire Prince Jing faction into massive panic. I knew they would definitely take action immediately to destroy evidence, transfer assets, and even silence key witnesses. And this was exactly what I wanted to see. The more panicked they were, the easier it would be for them to expose their flaws. I picked up my brush again and wrote another letter to the Crown Prince. Gangwon Temple outside Yangzhou City, beneath the 3rd stone tile of the Guanyin statue's base on the back mountain. The ledger is there. There is a lay accountant in the temple named Zhou. He is the key witness. Prince Jing's assassins and Your Highness's personal guards will surely meet there very soon. As for who will arrive first, it will depend on the will of heaven. After sending the letter, I stood by the window, watching the setting sun on the horizon. The sky was as red as blood. Qin Yan, your time has come. This time, I will not give you another chance to turn things around. A life and death pursuit revolving around the ledger and the witness is about to unfold in Yangzhou, thousands of miles away. Meanwhile, in the capital, I only need to wait quietly for the outcome. Waiting for the death knell, I personally toll for you. The wind of the capital has finally blown to Yangzhou, thousands of miles away. The news of the Imperial Commissioner's arrival was like a massive boulder smashing into this gentle land of wealth and luxury. On the surface, officials welcomed and hosted one another in perfect harmony, but beneath the surface undercurrents were already raging, and deadly peril lurked everywhere. Outside Yangzhou City, at Gangwon Temple, this ancient temple, which was usually bustling with worshippers, was enveloped in an unusual, deathly silence today. Wild winds whipped up dark clouds, completely swallowing the moon and stars. Heavy, bean-sized raindrops began to clatter down. Deep inside the temple, in a secluded Zen room, a man of about 50 was sitting on pins and needles. A man in his 50s was sitting there, restless and anxious. He was Mr. Zhou, the accountant who had kept the books for Zhongwanjin for 10 years. Half a month ago, sensing that something was amiss, he had hidden in this temple under the pretext of praying for his mother, unaware that he was already a prey caught in a web, with the hunter merely waiting to draw the net close. Outside the window, a flash of lightning tore through the night sky, instantly illuminating several ghostly figures in the courtyard. Clad in night-traveling attire and wielding sharp blades, they moved as swiftly as wildcats, creeping silently toward the Zen room. They were from the Prince Jing estate. Leave no survivors. The order they received was an absolute dead-end command. If they couldn't take the person, they were to leave a corpse. If they couldn't burn the ledger, they were to burn down the entire temple. Under no circumstances could any survivor or evidence be left behind. Just as they were about to approach the Zen room, the sound of whistling air echoed from the temple eaves and the shadows. Several sleeve arrows accurately pierced the throats of the foremost men. Before they could even let out a scream, those men fell straight to the ground. The leader let out a low bark. Ambush. Instantly, another group of people poured out from all directions of the temple. They were likewise dressed in black with cold expressions, but their movements carried a murderous aura unique to the military. They were the personal guards of the Eastern Palace. The order they received was also an absolute, dead-end command. Protect the witness at all costs and secure the ledger. The two forces clashed violently in the narrow courtyard, without a single word of nonsense. There was only the clashing of swords and the dull thuds of sharp blades entering flesh. Fresh blood quickly spread in the torrential rain, only to be washed clean by the downpour. Inside the Zen room, Mr. Zhou, hearing the sounds of slaughter outside, was already scared out of his wits. He rushed to the door, bracing his body firmly against the wooden panel. Shaking like a leaf, the door was forced open by a massive impact. Mr. Zhou, come with us. An Eastern Palace guard rushed inside. Before Mr. Zhou could react, he was hoisted up by the man and dragged outside. The battle in the courtyard had reached a fever pitch. Lu Zhang, the leader of the Eastern Palace Guards, shouted loudly, "To the back mountain, protect Mr. Zhou and the ledger. Retreat first." Several guards protected Mr. Zhou, fighting hard to carve out a bloody path toward the back mountain. Following the instructions in the letter, he found the loose stone brick beneath the base. Prying open the stone brick, inside was an iron box wrapped tightly in oilcloth. The ledger. Lu Zhang felt a surge of joy. Just as he reached out to take it, a fierce sword light struck at him from behind. Lu Zhang reacted extremely fast, rolling on the ground to narrowly avoid it. Looking back, a ghostly figure was already standing behind him. It was none other than the leader of the Prince Jing Estate's assassins, Ying Gai. Leave that behind. Wishful thinking. At the same time, the team escorting Mr. Zhou was also being frantically intercepted on the back mountain. The opponent's target was extremely clear. It was Mr. Zhou. Protect the gentleman. An Eastern Palace guard, taking a blade for Mr. Zhou, was pierced through the heart from behind. Even in death, he maintained his forward-falling posture. Go. Hurry, go. Summoning strength from God knows where, he actually broke free from the guard's support, scrambling and crawling down the mountain. Another clap of thunder exploded. In the flash of lightning, he saw Gongquan Temple at the foot of the mountain, already engulfed in a raging fire. The flames painted half the sky red. They had set fire to the temple. Despair instantly gripped Mr. Zhou's heart. A stray arrow shot out from the darkness, accurately pinning his calf. Several men in black approached him with sinister grins. It is over. Everything is over. Protect the Imperial Commissioner. Suddenly, earth-shattering shouts came from the foot of the mountain. Countless torches, like a long dragon, were rapidly surrounding the mountain. It was the government troops of Yangzhou Prefecture. They were the Imperial Commissioner's men. It turned out the Crown Prince had already made twofold preparations. The Eastern Palace Guards were merely the vanguard responsible for seizing the evidence, while the true main force was the Imperial Commissioner's escort, which had long been on standby. The shadow ghost forced Lu Zhang back with a feint, and without lingering to fight, turned and vanished into the dark forest. The remaining death warriors also retreated like a receding tide. A bloody battle finally came to an end. Lu Zhang covered the wound on his arm, walked over to Mr. Zhou, and helped him up. He glanced at the Gangquan Temple, which was now engulfed in a sea of fire, then looked at the heavy iron box in his arms. His eyes filled with lingering fear. That was close. Just a little more, and all our efforts would have gone to waste. 3 days later, I received an urgent, secret letter from the Eastern Palace. The letter still contained only a few brief words. The fish has entered the net. The net is damaged. The gentleman is unharmed. The ledger is safe. On the bloody night in Yangzhou, 17 guards of the Eastern Palace were lost. I stared at the cold numbers on the letter, speechless for a long time. I knew my plan would shed blood, but I didn't expect it to be so tragic. Outside, the sunshine was just right, and the capital was peaceful and harmonious. But who could have known how many bones and how much blood were buried beneath this prosperous peace? These blood debts, I, Shuyue, will remember them. Qin Yan. Every single blood debt you owe, I will make you pay with your own life. The news from Yangzhou spread back to the capital as if it had wings. First, the Imperial Commissioner's urgent report was delivered to the Emperor. The report detailed the collusion between Yangzhou officials and salt merchants to evade taxes, written in fierce words with ironclad evidence. On the dragon throne, His Majesty's face was so dark it looked as if it could drip water. Outrageous. A bunch of parasites of the state. Below the court, the officials were as silent as cicadas in winter. In particular, the officials of Prince Jing's faction were all pale-faced and trembling with fear. They knew this was just the appetizer, and the real feast was yet to come. Sure enough, just as the Minister of Revenue was stammering to defend himself and promising a thorough investigation, Crown Prince Qin Chen stepped slowly out of the ranks. Today, he wore a plain court robe, his expression solemn. Father, this son also has a petition to present. The emperor looked up at his legitimate son, his gaze complex. Speak. What this son wishes to impeach is not the issue of the salt tax in Liangwai, but rather summoning committing treason under the guise of smuggling private salt. Once these words were spoken, everyone's scalp went numb with shock. This was no longer a matter of corruption. This was a crime that would cost heads, a capital offense that would execute 9 generations of one's family. Most of the officials in Prince Jing's faction instantly collapsed in weakness. Your Highness, the Crown Prince, you can eat whatever you want, but you cannot speak carelessly. The crime of treason is of utmost gravity. Is there any evidence? Evidence? He clapped his hands. 2 guards of the Eastern Palace slowly walked in, carrying an iron box. Behind them followed a thin man who was being supported, walking with a limp, his expression filled with panic. It was Mr. Zhou. Both the witness and the material evidence are here. The iron box was presented to the dragon desk. The emperor opened it himself. He casually flipped open a book, and with just one glance, his pupils suddenly contracted. What was densely recorded on it was not only the private salt transactions, but also the destination of every single sum of money: purchasing iron ore, forging weapons, recruiting bandits, and raising a private army. Every entry was shocking. Every entry pointed to the same name: Prince Jing, Qin Yan. Rebellious son. What a rebellious son. Pass. Pass down our decree. His voice became hoarse from extreme anger. Arrest everyone in Prince Jing's estate. Seize Prince Jing's estate. No one is allowed to escape. And any official whose name is mentioned in the ledger, they are to be stripped of their posts immediately and thrown into the imperial prison to await sentencing. The emperor's voice echoed through the hall of supreme harmony like rolling thunder, carrying with it a world-destroying imperial wrath. By your majesty's decree, squads of imperial guards in armor, holding sharp weapons, flooded in from outside the hall like a tide. Instantly, cries and pleas for mercy resounded throughout the court. The once mighty Prince Jing faction collapsed in ruins at this very moment. Crown Prince Qin Chen stood there quietly, watching this farce unfold before his eyes, without a single ripple of emotion in his eyes, only a deeply hidden, icy coldness. To strategize within a command tent and decide a victory 1,000 miles away. What a brilliant woman. Yun Shuyue. At the Prime Minister's manor, I stood on the pavilion, leaning against the railing and looking into the distance. Suddenly, a series of orderly heavy footsteps came from the direction of the capital. That was the sound of a massive troop mobilization. Immediately after, plumes of black smoke rose from different directions in the city. I knew those were the imperial guards raiding the officials' residences. The wrath of heaven had finally descended. The massive net I wove with my own hands was finally being reeled in. My father and elder brother stood behind me, their faces showing the same mixture of gravity and relief. Shuyue. You've won. It is not that I won, it is justice that won. It is the innocent commoners who died under the blades of the salt smugglers who won. It is the loyal and upright officials persecuted by Prince Jing's manor who won. Indeed, a daughter of my Yun family should possess such breadth of mind. He patted my shoulder. Go on. Go do what you must do. I nodded, turned around, and walked down the pavilion. Qing Tian had already prepared the carriage. Miss, where are we going? I looked toward the imperial palace, my gaze cold and calm. To the imperial prison. I want to see with my own eyes how the man who ruined my entire life is reduced to a prisoner. I want him to know that I, Yun Shuyue, have returned to demand payment for all his blood debts. The imperial prison, the darkest, dampest place in the entire Great Zhou dynasty. It never saw the light of day all year round, and the air was filled with blood, decay, and the stench of despair. The lamplight could only illuminate a tiny space right in front of me. I followed the jailer step by step toward the deepest part of the imperial prison. A very special prisoner was kept there. The former Prince Jing, Qin Yan. The cell door was open, and a strong smell of alcohol mixed with mold rushed over me. I frowned slightly and walked in. The cell was very empty, with only a wooden bed covered in moldy straw, and a figure huddled in the corner. He wore a prison uniform whose original color could no longer be distinguished, and his hair was as messy as dry weeds. If not for those vaguely recognizable features, I would have hardly recognized him. He was the once glorious, exceptionally handsome Prince Jing. The moment his turbid eyes saw me, a torrent of monstrous hatred suddenly erupted from them. Yun Shuyue. Yun Shuyue. It is you. You ruined me. He struggled to pounce forward, but was violently dragged back by the shackles on his feet. I stood there quietly looking down at him, looking at this man I had once loved and hated. Now there was only an icy calm left in my heart. I ruined you? Qin Yan. Ask your own conscience. Who exactly ruined whom? It was you who drew your sword for a dancing girl on our wedding day, trampling the dignity of my Yun family under your feet. It was you who raised a private army and smuggled salt, treating human lives like grass and plotting rebellion. It was you who sent yourself step by step down this dead end. What does it have to do with me? He shook his head frantically, his eyes unfocused. No, that is not true. It is Ruyan. Ruyan is dead. You killed her. Everything I did was to avenge her. Even now, he is still making ridiculous excuses for his crimes. I don't want to waste another word on him. I pull something out from my sleeve. It was the token of love he gave me on my coming-of-age ceremony. In my past life, I cherished it like a treasure, holding it tightly in my hand until the moment I died. Seeing the jade hairpin, Qin Yan's pupils contract sharply. He seems to recall something. This hairpin. You once said you wished for a single heart, to never part until our hair turned white. You once said you would never fail me in this lifetime. Qin Yan. Did you throw all your vows to the dogs? He opens his mouth, making a raspy, choking sound from his throat, as if something is tightly blocking it. Looking at his anguished expression, I feel not a shred of pity in my heart. I raise the jade hairpin and slam it hard onto the ground right before his eyes. With a crisp, sharp snap, the jade hairpin breaks into two pieces, just like our affection, which has long been shattered beyond repair. Yun Shuyue. Is it regret, or is it resentment? I don't know. Nor do I care to know. For the rest of your life, stay here and repent properly, for yourself, and for your so-called love. I leave him with those final words, then turn and walk out of the cell without looking back. Stepping out of the imperial prison, the bright sunlight outside makes it hard for me to open my eyes. I raise my hand to shield my eyes, as a cold drop of tear slips down my cheek. From this day forward, there is no longer a Prince Jing named Qin Yan in this world, only a reborn Yun Shuyue. Prince Jing, Qin Yan, is stripped of his titles and reduced to a commoner, to be imprisoned in the imperial mausoleum for life, never to leave until his death. His mother, the dowager consort Jing, is ordered to commit suicide. His sister, Qin Lingyue, is stripped of her title and sent far away to marry a northern barbarian tribe for a political alliance. All accomplices involved in Prince Jing's faction are sentenced to execution for the primary offenders, while their families are exiled 3,000 miles away. A shocking case of high treason has finally settled like dust. The capital seems to have restored its former tranquility. Yet everyone knows that some things have changed forever. I stand on the highest pavilion of the Prime Minister's estate, looking at the distant, sealed, and empty Prince Jing's manor. My heart is perfectly clear and calm. My great vengeance has been exacted, and the grudges of my past life should end here as well. As a gust of wind blows by, I close my eyes to feel this hard-won breeze of freedom. From now on, the sky is high and the sea is wide. My life, as Yun Shuyue, will be written by my own hand. Shuyue. It is all over. I open my eyes, look at him, and smile faintly. No, brother. Everything has only just begun. I cast my gaze further away, toward the direction of the Eastern Palace, toward the Forbidden City, toward the absolute center of power in this land. Qin Yan has fallen, but the disputes in the imperial court and the battle for the throne are far from over. And since I, Yun Shuyue, have entered the game, there will be no turning back. In this life, I want neither love nor marriage. I only want supreme power over the world and the eternal prosperity of my Yun family.